Apologies, it's been a quiet day. I've got two other fringes I want to get to, just as an act of solidarity as much as anything else. The issue for us now is exactly as this meeting is entitled, really. It's about winning government and being in government. Now, when we set up the LRC all those years ago, the purpose was then to try and almost refound the Labour Party from within, because we were in a position where, to be frank, the left had really been isolated, actually isolated. It was that thing that Mandelson's strategy was bringing together the left, activists, etc., individual campaigns and trade unions. And the idea was to have an organisational form that would encourage debate, the development of ideas, and in addition to that, to run alongside real campaigning and action. It was the old concept of praxis, the development of theory and practice, and that you merge them together. And in all those dark years that we went through, to be honest, the LRC was, for many people, it was a point of refuge, to be honest, from within the movement itself. And I'm so pleased that so many comrades stuck with us through that period, because it laid the foundations then, it laid the organisational forms that we could bring people together relatively quickly and relatively easily to ensure that we organised within the party. And at that point in time, sort of incremental developments around individual policies, and maybe the achievement of assuming positions, maybe getting some councillors selected on the left, or maybe some MPs selected. Never did I envisage that the LRC would be an organisational form that would ensure that we had a socialist leader of the Labour Party. And it demonstrates actually exactly what we did then, in terms of still developing our ideas in the hope that, in the expectation at some stage, we'd be able to put them into practice. And what we did through the LRC and into the Socialist Campaign Group, all the MPs were in the campaign group at that point in time, we gave them a brief. We told them this is the area of responsibility that you're going to take on board. You'll be our spokesperson on that particular policy area. We want you to work with the LRC and other organisations in developing that policy. We want you to be the spokesperson for the left and effectively the Labour Party in Parliament as well. And then we started preparing. I did an alternative annual budget and presented it in Parliament. We presented alternative forms of legislation. We presented effectively an alternative Queen's speech as well to contest the new liberal, a complete almost conversion to neoliberalism. At that point in time, some people thought, well, this is ludicrous. You know, you're just going through the motions. It's it's almost like a pantomime. It's completely ineffectual and pointless, whatever. I always said at campaign group meetings in those days, at LRC meetings, we've got to be ready, literally, to prepare for government for the next day. And everyone thought I was on drugs. But I was saying, if the left is serious, we've got to demonstrate we've got the policies and the ability and the talent to be able to implement these policies and develop them, and we can build the social movement that will take us into power one day. Again, literally, it was a hard time, but actually a time which I think was most fruitful as well. I covered the finance bit, I did the budgets and all the rest, I chaired the Socialist Campaign Groups. Jeremy did foreign affairs, because he's brilliant, and he's possibly an international reputation on foreign affairs second to none. And then we had people like Bob Marshall-Andrews who were covering the finance, Neil Gerard who did immigration and rights, etc. And you had a whole network of people with their individual specialisms. And the argument was, I put time and time again, prepare the positions, prepare to go into government and get the left in. We thought we could negotiate at best our way, maybe, with once Blair and Brown had gone, maybe with Ned Miliband we'd be able to negotiate, maybe with someone to be a PPS, a bag carrier to a minister at some stage. What's happened, as you know, once we got Jeremy Corbyn elected, which is, I still think was a miracle, actually. I still think it is. Maybe that's down to my old Catholic background, I don't know. But once we got elected...
Why is it not a miracle?
So I know, so liked at the LRC is positive heckling. What I'm trying to say is once we did get him elected, once we got him on the ballot paper, all that work that we'd been doing on the backbenches and the LRC had developed ideas and policies and campaigns, they just all came to fruition. Because all that work that we'd done in those dark years effectively became the campaign platform for Jeremy when he stood for leader. And it was on that basis, and this is why I'm long-windedly telling you this story, it was on that basis we were able to mobilise mass support for Jeremy to become leader of the Labour Party. And you're right, to sustain a coup and get him one again. And it was the work that was done by the LRC and ourselves in all the debates that we had, in all the discussions, the meetings, working with the Socialist Campaign Group of MPs, that built up the body of knowledge, the body of analysis, the body of theory, the body of practical policies that became the platform for Jeremy to stand upon that leadership election. Then if you then translate that now, we win 2 leadership elections, and if you look at that body of knowledge that was done, actually got translated into the manifesto to last year. If you look at all those policies that we've been campaigning on throughout the years on the left, most of them are now contained within that manifesto. And that manifesto almost took us to government. Almost. Very closely took it to government. I think next time round it will be. So I think in terms of people who've supported the LRC over the years, just take pride in what you've done. Take pride in it. You've had a few, the LRC as an organisation has a few knocks over recent years, and I was encouraged not to come on the platform this time round. I thought, it's just because you never know what Pete Furman's going to say next. But just be proud of the work that was done in the darkest times when the left were isolated. We stuck together in solidarity and we laid the foundations of what, first of all, leadership election victory, then a manifesto drafted that nearly took us to victory. Now I think those ideas will be translated into a more radical manifesto that will take us into government. So be proud of what you've done over those years. Finally, let me just say this. I don't know when the general election is going to come, but you've seen, we've taken the old manifesto and we're now radicalising it. You've seen some of those policies being announced this week itself. To be able to get up there today and to say that companies are going to be required to give shares to their workers is a significant breakthrough. And it's not the scale of it, it's the principle of it. The principle of rehabilitating public ownership in people's minds, but also rehabilitating that concept that workers should have a share in the wealth that they produce and also a say in the companies that employ them. That goes right through, if you look in the debates that are happening, the discussions today about academies and taking back democratic control in the way we are of education itself. You've seen today Margaret Greenwood actually say, look, we're on the edge of scrapping universal credit and other aspects like that. We've now radicalised the Labour Party, so we've gone to that plateau. We need to go to the next one in government. When we go into government, this is the easy bit. The next bit is the hardest bit when we go into government, and sustain the Labour government to implement those policies. And it will require the nourishing of the ideas continuously, and that's what the LRC is all about. It will require ensuring that we develop the personnel that will be the next generation of Labour representatives at every level of our party, and also it will require the campaigning base to sustain our support. The book Socialist Challenge by Leo Panich and Sam Gindin has a good analysis of Syriza and the Bernie Sanders campaign and our own campaigning as well. And a number of analyses that came out of it I think were really helpful. One is some of the elements around Syriza, some of their problems was that they didn't prepare for the use of the state effectively. Yeah. That's what we're doing. Our preparation for government work at the moment is how do you use the state? Obviously in the concept of in and against the state, but how do you use it effectively? We're training our people to do that now. The second element of it, though, was that you can't be in a situation where you elect MPs, they go off and then hold ministerial office, and that's it, you expect them to go and do it. You've got to have a direct link, an important critical link between the mass base and the representative wings that we put forward. And that's what the LRC has always tried to do. And we need now to build and nourish that work and grow it. The concept of us as a social movement now is the one that we've always argued for from the LRC, as the principle upon which we'll win the next election and go into government. And as I say, deliver this dream, a socialist in number 10, a government that's proud to call itself socialist, a government that will implement socialist policies and transform our society. Solidarity.